Okay, everybody, you are being recorded. We will be sharing this recording with everybody on our YouTube channel soon.
Perfect. Yeah, I think just before we start and while we give people a few moments to trickle in here, yeah, I just wanted to do a sort of check-in, see how everyone's feeling today. You don't have to, yeah.
Excited to be here.
That's awesome.
And a lot to discuss on the mentorship. There are many things in my head. So looking forward.
That's great. That's great. We're making some real headway here. So that's exciting. I've posted the code of conduct. Michael?
I just wanted to say, you know, the expression, there's an elephant in the room, there's a bear in the room yesterday and today. And my heart is very heavy. I'm trying to participate.
Yeah, you are not alone with that for sure.
I know. I just thought I'd give voice.
No, it's good. It's necessary. And I think it's yet another reason to just be as sort of hard on systems and soft on people as we always try to be here. Okay. Yeah, if there's anything anyone would like to, yeah, Amira.
I'm so happy also to be here, and I'm looking forward to get to know you.
Awesome. No, it's a wonderful room of people so far. Should we get started? All right, so basically, this would be the second session that we're having on mentorship, an open dialogue. It follows the first session that happened earlier this week. And so the structure and format for it will be quite similar. However, I'll be summarizing sort of a couple of the major points that we came up with in that first session. As we approach each question, as you'll see, we can see what like people from the first mentorship open dialogue that we had brought up. We can elaborate on those ideas, refine some of those, add our own, point out ones that are missing. And then toward the end of the talk, I'd like to dedicate a bit of space to having a discussion about how we can actually bring these sort of thoughts into fruition and embed them throughout different SIGCHI contexts. So as always, we encourage you to add your pronouns to Zoom. If you're comfortable doing so, we encourage using camera for ease of comprehension and lip reading. Just want to remind you all that the session will be recorded, so try to keep your comments concise. And in your comments, we encourage constructive criticism and critique, but in doing so, just be aware of how difficult this time is right now for a lot of people. So yeah, just be patient, show sensitivity to anyone speaking, be kind and supportive. I'd like to remind everyone that people's lived experiences are not up for debate. Their ideas, policies, thoughts are. Make sure to turn your microphone off when joining. Raise your hand if you wish to speak and you'll be called in. And when you do wish to speak, just start with your name, institution, and pronouns. So I'm Cale Passmore, your Equity AC. Pronouns they, them, he, him, and from the University of Saskatchewan. So you can feel free to leave the talk, move around, take a moment whenever you need. And in the event of harassment, discrimination, upsetting content, you can contact me directly via direct messages, or Neha or Michael on behalf of SIGCHI here. So we are here. We're here today to gather experiences, thoughts, and possible solutions for mentorship and experiences around mentorship. I've posted a link to the shared document in chat. This is where we're keeping all of our notes in perpetuity for the time being. We began last session looking at the question, what does good mentorship look or feel like? So what are some descriptions that come to mind when we think of good mentorship experiences? What about good mentors, mentees, not so good ones? And we generated quite the list last time. So we've got, mentors are enthusiastic and respectful. They engage with a level of comfort, non-judgment. There's expectations about the scope of advice that's given, the support that's clear. A big focus is on the goals of the mentee. It was mentioned that the relationship between mentor and mentee was important to share cultural, epistemological, and/or experiential identities, or at least be open and receptive to the back and forth that could happen between those. And that there be sort of, understanding the time of labor involved with this. It's important mentees feel heard, safe, supported. And I think we began to end that first part on a really great discussion around, like, can we design co-mentorship? So less of a hierarchical top-down, more of a lateral, mentor-mentee inspiring one another on a regular basis. So if we'd like to start with this first question, what does good mentorship look or feel like? Is there anyone that would like to kick us off? Are we missing anything from this list? Are there any crucial points in that mentor-mentee relationship that you'd really like to see present as we sort of like guide policy and guide praxis? I think we've nailed it then, which is fantastic. Michael? And then Patricia.
I'll just say what I said in the previous meeting, which is, from my point of view, ideal mentorship is two-directional. We all can learn from each other, and we know different things, so we may have different things to contribute to the mentoring relationship. But a one-directional mentoring relationship, from my point of view, is one that hasn't achieved its fullness.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wanted to add that maybe mentoring, I mean, it's not one size fits all, right? You might need different mentors for different things. So you might feel comfortable talking about some things with the specific person, and you have different kind of areas that you would like to talk about. Like you want to talk to someone about being a woman in computing science, to someone else about being an early career researcher, to someone else about something else. So maybe if there were, it's already hard to find like one mentor, but maybe ideally we had several of those.
So more of a community-based approach, or are you thinking more of like a networking and different parceled out ways of doing mentorship?
Well, a combination would be great, because I think like if you have a group, especially if something like early career researchers or something in a specific field, there are so many of us. There are so many who have moved beyond that. That would be good to have like a community approach and meet, like have loads of those meetings where you just get loads of people talking and get their feedback on this. But then also you would like someone who's actually just thinking of you and your specific situation. So ideally it would be a combination of that.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, the more the merrier. Yeah, and there are a lot of different needs. I think that also reduces a lot of sort of labor and burden on conventional one-to-one, top-down mentorship relationships. Amira.
Hi, I'm Amira. So you said that we have to start by mentioning our affiliation. I'm studying usability engineering at the moment. And regarding your question, I think one important thing for a mentor is that they can see through the potential of the person in front of them. So as an early career young lady, sometimes I cannot see through my full potential, but I think a good quality of a mentor who's experienced and wise is to help me discover my full potential. Also would be that they really care about this human being, and that they want to see them, of course, realizing this potential. So the fact of caring, not only covering up okay, the requirement or helping to reach a goal. So this emotional feelings of yeah, I saw this person growing, and I'm proud to be their mentor. So I guess these kind of qualities also would be wonderful to have in a mentor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We've been having a lot of discussions, at least at my institute, around reciprocity in that way, and sort of giving back. I think it can be complicated and tricky to support like a mentee's well-being and health and their sense of identity, but also that goes hand in hand with like good guidance and shaping. And so the more, as Michael I think has brought up, like what's a better term for this? Like not lateral, dialogical, back and forth. Michael?
Mutual?
I failed to say Michael Muller, IBM Research, Cambridge, Massachusetts, US. He, him. When I had to stop working for a certain manager whom I loved, who had been so good for me, they said, you have a different job now, go and work over there. I said to my manager, as I was saying goodbye, as it were, well, I'm only going to do this if you'll be my mentor. I was really upset. And she said to me, we will be co-mentors together. And through that, continued to form who I am. But also, I think co-mentors is a lovely way of saying it.
That works perfectly. That will be the term we go with for now. Are there any other thoughts that you'd like to basically have down here on this sheet that we will be using to inform a lot of the policy across different contexts in SIGCHI? For the question, yeah, perfect. So go with Patricia and then Amira.
Yeah. I also forgot to say who I am and where I'm from. So I'm Patricia, or Paddy for short. I'm at the University of Glasgow at the moment, early career researcher in ACI. So one of the things I was thinking about is also like, did you talk about the other side? It's like becoming a mentor, and how do you know how to do that and what to do actually? Is that already a discussion that you were having? Because I'm just, they have a mentoring scheme here at the university, and I've just been assigned to be a mentor for the first time for a PhD student, and I've got my first meeting actually after this one. So I'm super excited, but how do you know how to do this best? Any kind of tips? Is there anything out there that could kind of support people just starting with this?
Yes, I wish I could answer all of those questions, but I think one of the things that we're looking at here was touched on last session, but we need to pay special consideration to it, is that networks of mentors should be in touch with one another. If we have co-mentorship, that's something that remains dialogical, and there's sort of a co-evolution happening, mutual learning at the same time. So there's a few interesting models I think that we can bring up and discuss. Before since we're running on time here, are there any very pressing last things or thoughts, Bill?
Yeah, my name's Bill. I'm at Stellenbosch University in South Africa. Yeah, I was just thinking that what makes good mentorship is paying it forward, where you're not really getting anything for it other than just the growth and the experience of the mentorship. So it's not like, I mean, yeah, you can mentor one of your PhD students, for example, but I was just thinking of situations where I've been mentoring other other people's PhD students. That'd be kind of like, Michael was asking of, his former boss to continue to be his mentor. It's like there's no direct line of responsibility or formal payback. It's more like an informal or indirect mechanism. And then when you guys are using the terms like dialogical, I came across a really cool term because I like the word consilience. Came, associated with sociobiology. But then from consilience, it came upon this other term, which is worth giving a Google: dialectical constructivism. Give that a Google. That's pretty fun. It might come close to what we're talking about here.
I love that one personally. Thanks, Bill. Ali.
Hello, everyone. So nice to meet you all. I'm from London. I'm directing a computer science research center, Centre of London. First of all, this is my first session with SIGCHI, so I'm actually acting as a novice reading your document quite fastly. But I thought that perhaps I can actually share the whole concept of mentorship. So I have a mentor and I'm mentoring people, but it not necessarily means that I have a direct relationship as a line manager or a supervisor or something with them. So sometimes it's good to have mentors, which is not having any association with you as a member of team or something like that. So not necessarily they have to be from your same discipline. Sometimes having people coming from different viewpoint of what you're doing is quite helpful. And it's kind of like mostly a journey, a collaborative journey of building your career with help of someone who's not necessarily interested in your discipline. So that's just something to add.
Love that, and it brings us back around to the importance of having interdisciplinary and diverse collaborations in that way. Just to read aloud here before we jump to the next question. Neha had written in the chat, quote, "If you're over 45 and you don't have an under 30-year-old mentor, not mentee, but mentor, you're going to miss fundamental shifts in thinking that are happening." And I think that's an excellent point. Yeah, it's that's another reason it has to go both ways. Michael, if there was a concise last thought before we move on to this last question. Okay. So the next question that we approached in the first session was, what are some good mentorship programs that you have seen or experienced? Within this, we had mention of a range of things from World Usability Day, CHI Early Career Development Symposium, the full day session, How Do I Become a Professional in This Field? Queer SIG, DIS 2021, CSCW Student Reviewer Mentoring Program, the HCI and Design Mentorship Clinics that have happened. Navina had mentioned that CSST had done a great job. We talked about reverse mentoring for a little bit. ACM Compass ran a shadow PC process in 2021. Shawan mentioned CHI 2019 and 2021 attended language inclusion issues for non-native speaker authors. And I'm wondering actually if anyone else can think of any other great exemplary mentorship programs that you've seen, experienced, maybe heard of that should be on our radar. If you don't feel comfortable talking, you can also just leave your own notes in this collaborative document. But Bill, let us know what you think.
Yeah, so this is going to show my age. In 2003, I attended the doctoral colloquium at CSCW in Finland. That was amazing. And in 2004, the same thing at CHI in Vienna. And wow, those two doctoral colloquia were absolutely amazing and left a huge impression on me, just being able to get, well, just number one, sitting around with peers that were in the same boat as me, starting off doing the PhD, and then from the likes of Elizabeth Churchill and whatnot. I mean, it was such a cool growing experience.
So finding similar experiences, are there other aspects of it that you found worked really well?
Yeah, I found that what I really liked the most was the way the mentors at that session, the senior people, were just not on a pedestal and made a safe space for all of us to share our things with each other and with them, and they were just like part of the gang. So it was just a really safe space, and very supportive. Yeah, that's what I liked about it the most.
Yeah, Patricia added in the comments, very much agree. I did a doctoral colloquium at Auto UI in 2018, very helpful and encouraging. I'd love to move to the next question, given our timing here. But if there are any other programs, they don't actually even need to be in HCI. They can be sort of peripheral or grassroots. Yeah, I'll give one more moment here to see if anyone can think of anything. And if not, oh, perfect.
Yeah, just a small one. So there's we have SIGCHI here in Scotland, which is the Scottish Informatics and Computing Science Alliance, and they have a PhD conference once a year usually, and they also have something like a doctoral colloquium in there. So I did that as well, and that was quite interesting because it was not experts of your field, but still computing science, but you got feedback also from people who don't necessarily know a lot about HCI, and it's interesting to get that feedback from like a broader audience as well. But that is very, that is very regional. So I don't know, there might be other things like that out there that could be similar.
Yeah, I think this is actually something that does sort of keep coming up. Neha had actually asked in the chat here, there's something about doctoral consortia that makes them great mentorship programs. I think, yeah, the common themes that we're seeing are these sort of like being able to share those experiences, having some sort of interdisciplinary basis. Can anyone pinpoint maybe, that does actually almost bring us into the next question, but can anyone pinpoint other points at which like are making these doctoral consortia so it's the first thing that comes to mind when we think about mentorship within this context?
Mentorship could be outside the academic realm. Can it be from how could the peers could help each other in terms of when we get into the industry, when we are very new, we do not know how to make our way forward, how to negotiate the different spaces we are currently in. So mentorship could be thought from that perspective as well, where we help each other on daily basis on getting small things done.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pranjal. Am I saying that your name correctly?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, Neha has added, there's also this question about how to help mentors be better mentors. I think orientation and onboarding is something I have talked Neha's ear off endlessly about, and it is immensely complicated. Even after, surfing on the EC for this amount of time, there are still aspects of SIGCHI that I did not know existed. And I'm sure there's many, many more of that. And so how we sort of onboard and retain institutional knowledge is something I think we need to be very focused on. And it does go hand in hand, as you're saying, sort of with mentorship. And I feel this brings us actually to this next question of what mentorship needs SIGCHI has. So this was a longer section. We talked about reviewing research, the crisis in reviewing and the requirements of mentorship within that space, as well as Pranjal is mentioning, awareness of policies, programs, opportunities, communities, etc. There's so many opportunities. Easy small example is the creation of SIGCHI's calendar and how many people have requested this resource and how long it took to get that going. And it's been going, but is awareness of it enough? Mentorship is something that does bring that into the awareness of people. So different types of scales of mentorship for different purposes. Again, this is the sort of diversity, interdisciplinary nature of mentorship. Allyship is a form of mentoring at scale. We talked about managing labor and preserving institutional knowledge, organizing resources better. So role that SIGCHI can play in this. In some Slack conversations earlier today, which would have been earlier this week, we talked about the 2-year co-chair model, in which there's a senior co-chair who did the same job last year and a junior co-chair who's new but becomes senior, similar to sort of shadowing. Mentorship being bidirectional came up once again. Doctoral consortiums came up once again. And yeah, mentoring early career HCI students on topics that are incredibly relevant to their careers, like how to publish at CHI. Ali in the comments has mentioned there's also the question of how to help mentors be better mentors. Big thumbs up. So can you identify any additional mentorship needs that SIGCHI has? What are we missing? What spaces of SIGCHI need mentorship or would benefit from it that it's absent or ineffective, I guess? Marisol.
Hi everybody. I'm Marisol. I'm from Ecuador. Pronounce her, she, her. Okay, so I'm not fully sure that this is missing but it's something that I feel like might be helpful from what I've seen in my institution is any mentorship program generating a certificate or something that says the hours, because that's helpful for validating back in our institutions, right? Saying like, this I can count towards promotions, etc. So that might be like something very pragmatic to do. I think SIGCHI can be that type of institution.
Agreed. I'd like to see the same. Are there areas in your own experiences where you went through maybe some undue or unnecessary amounts of learning curves or difficulties or trials that would have been eased by better mentorship in place? Amira.
Yeah, I have thank you. So I have an experience in this. So during my study, I had goals and I was very ambitious to reach them, but coming from a different discipline than the discipline that I'm studying currently. I had a lot of potential, but I needed a lot of training to get rooted in the new field. And I've been through a situation where I had to write, for example, my master topic 3 times because I could not find this kind of non-transactional mentorship. And I'm happy with the learning after all, because that's this an opportunity for myself to advance. But having this non-transactional mentorship, someone who their goals is just to see other growing, which I believe there is many people who feel this way, would have really solved this struggle. And yeah, there is the other thing where I wanted to see, or I'm still also fresh in the topic here, but I would, for example, imagine like if we had a structured plan of this mentorship, how can we have this learner and mentor experience that we can design this experience in a way that would be coming out of our meetings, so we can structure this and draw the line for this. So I would like to see this also. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely agree. Because you're probably all tired of hearing me talk, let's turn it over to Marisol and then Patricia.
Okay. So I saw that it's already on there, but really starting reviewing, being like the very first review, I was very nervous about that. I had no idea. I wanted to do a good job, but I wasn't sure if I could. And I think especially for if you're like a PhD student, you just start publishing papers, first time published, and then you feel like, okay, maybe I should start reviewing. Having more help with like how to get started with that would be great. And I also want to talk about like not my personal experience, but something I've seen around is if you have like a PhD or you work in a multidisciplinary field, like interdisciplinary, it's always hard to kind of find. So if you're mostly seated in HCI, but then your topic includes a lot from somewhere else, I feel it's always hard to find someone from somewhere else as well to talk to. And that would be really important, because it doesn't matter where you also try to publish or who you try to talk to, they're always only going to look at one thing. So how can we actually open this up and get people from non-HCI to also help us and with mentoring and things like that? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's incredibly important, especially as someone who comes from a different disciplinary background myself and had quite a time learning all of the ropes and different systems in place here. But Marisol?
Yeah, I was thinking about my own experience, right? And I'm about 45. I'm 45. And I started doing this, like trying to pursue a master's and a PhD outside of my country, kind of late for what, like the US standards, at least. I think even European standards. And so it all had to do with not having enough. I know this has been said a lot, but like really not having enough examples of people like me doing something like that, like pursuing a scholarship, or for studying abroad, of like doing a PhD in HCI. So I saw the HCI as something like super far away from what I could do, and getting a PhD is something almost impossible. And I think one of the things that SIGCHI can do is showcase a little bit more those stories at the margins across the globe, right? Because it's one of the strengths of SIGCHI, the global nature of it. That'd be interesting to me. I've seen students of mine who are doing a master's, but they also don't think they can go to CHI, for instance, because they don't speak the language. Why would they go to CSEW? It's like so qualitative, and they're so CS. Sorry about the dog. And so stuff like that. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. That's really exciting, because that is like a tie-in with so many other aspects of what SIGCHI is doing, from like, well, and what we need to do with awards, with representation, with like showing that diversity of people who are already doing this sort of things. People have someone to look up to and be like, that's me. Yeah, I really like that. Kartik, and then I'll recap from the comments.
Yeah, so hello everyone, I'm Kartik Joshi. I'm a Master's by Research student at the International Institute of Information Technology, IIIT Bangalore. And so I totally agree on what Patricia had to say about interdisciplinary background, because when I was trying to figure out the space of HCI, it seemed that it's a mix of a lot of things. In fact, I can never claim that I totally figured it out, because it's a lot of other disciplines coming in together. So this kind of cross-disciplinary conversations would be really helpful, and also something around the lines of, so when we as like young students start our journey in academia, a lot of these terminologies are not as clear. Say like, what is impact factor, what is a journal versus a thesis versus a conference paper. And I know it would be very contextual depending on the venue and on the discipline, but something of this sort could be kind of so essentially breaking down academic world and meta research skills that we could be having, and something like a reference manager like Zotero. So these are the things that I've been like lately thinking about, and I think this would be really helpful. And another thing is related to we at IIIT Bangalore are trying to establish a SIGCHI student chapter. And so I'd like to also invite Taru. So we are what we are trying to we are reaching out to other student chapters and getting a sense of what all is required, because the SIGCHI chapter in a box document is very comprehensive, I was also thinking that some of the documentation that is a kind of handout documentation established by the already existing SIGCHI student chapters, whether it could be shared so that those who are thinking about starting the student chapter could that could be really helpful for them. Taru, you would like to chime in here?
Yeah, no, I think that would be really helpful because we were having like we had to sort of look up a lot of documents to figure out what really is the case. So I think that would be helpful.
I think that's a great point, streamlining documentation orientation. Yeah, I almost want to leave like, what does that acronym mean with like copy and paste, since I end up asking that so much myself. Neha?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Karthik one clarification question. So are you saying that these documents exist and we could share them, or are you saying we could generate these documents?
So, like from what I've seen from the documentation of the SIGCHI chapter in a box, there is a yearly annual report that the student chapters generate. So while we are starting out, we don't know about the exactly the how did that process look like. So if we could know, get an idea, because for institute to back it, we would like to know that how could it be made more viable and productive. So kind of do's and don'ts, or what are the, I mean, things that were helpful or not helpful, some kind of documentation from the student chapters that could be shared across.
Yeah, that sounds great. Also, there's a chapter Slack. I don't know if everyone here knows, but we can just share the invite link for that. So that could be a place where you could also ask. And I think we're in the process of setting up our chapters committee, which is hopefully going to have 5 or 6 more people to try and address these needs. But I think that's a great point, like thinking about student chapters and how they could be sort of hubs for gathering these types of mentorship resources and sharing them across. It's a great idea.
Agreed. Neha, was there anything else that you wanted to add, or shall I recap our comments here?
No, please go ahead. I'm just going to pull up the link for joining the SIGCHI chapter Slack.
Perfect, thank you. So Pranjal had added a link to makemeflow.com, stating, I would like to share this resource as well here. Their Facebook group is really great, giving awareness to global opportunities broadly in computer science, from bachelor's and masters on an international scale. Bill Tucker has added, can I throw out something? A lot of people don't have the benefit of having a mentor on tap nearby, like this idea of mentor on tap. So what about a wiki type tool that makes mentorship available via the SIGCHI website? Perhaps start with collating what is coming out of these workshops into some kind of wiki that we can all edit. Isn't that what our Google Doc is now? Except it's only available to us right now. I guess I'm saying open it up for indirect virtual mentoring too. Neha added, totally, Bill. What is a good tool to integrate with our WordPress site? Bill added, I figured you were, I'm not going to read all of the back and forth, but I think you get the idea at this point.
But jump ahead to what Michael said, because what he said is true, and also Pranjal made a very good point, because maybe there needs to be a separation between what can be shared on a public wiki, like this kind of Google Doc that we're working on, and then the other thing which Michael called attention to, which I realized after hitting return, was that how do we manage the scale of like providing virtual mentorship to a lot of people that don't have access to it but do have access to internet? How do you reach the people that don't have access to the internet? Right? And then how do you prevent that from being exploitative of mentors? Which was what Pranjal said. It's like these are really good points worth thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I can add to that, the other part of the concern that I raised was some requests for mentorship are about sensitive topics, and people would be very, very reluctant to post that in a public place. There are options that we could think about which would allow private requests and and more labor for someone. So I don't say this lightly, but a way of doing matchmaking for people who needed to find a mentor, but who didn't want to tell everybody, possibly including the source of their troubles, that they were looking for a mentor.
Building in these systems of accountability is incredibly important. Yeah, we need that across SIGCHI on the whole, but like specifically for each and every aspect of what it is that we're doing, because power, it's everywhere. It can be exploited and abused everywhere. And that was I think the point that Bill was referring to, that Pranjal had brought up, which was academic exploitation, the other side of mentorship. It's a horrifying thought thinking about it as the other side, but I actually think that's quite accurate. Bill had added in the comments, what about public wiki for the types of definitions, goals, guidelines, tools, and then figuring out a way for virtual mentoring in a way that's scalable. We should have a group think on this. I completely agree. Susan Dre had asked if SIGCHI Cares could help with this. And Anka, oh, you have your hand up actually. And please correct me if I've said your name incorrectly.
Yes, hi, Anke Brock from ENAC in Toulouse in France. Yeah, so what I was writing in the chat is, I'm sorry, I had to step out quickly, so maybe I missed something that has already been said. I wanted to just say that I found there's some mentoring missing when you transition from being a PhD student or postdoc to being an assistant professor, since you have a few new struggles and things you don't really know how to do, like how to apply for funding and how to write your research proposal, how to find your research questions, how to decide what you want to work on in the next years, how to recruit good PhD students, what are the criteria for recruiting good PhD students, what to do if it doesn't work out with your PhD student. So many new topics. And once you're an assistant professor, it's not as easy to find mentors as before when you're a PhD student, because you don't have access to doctoral consortiums and other forums for young researchers. You're not a young researcher anymore, but you're also not really an established professor. So for me, maybe there's some vacuum where it could be helpful to have mentorship for probably for every step in your career where you change from being a master's student to a PhD student, PhD to postdoc, postdoc to assistant professor.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of mentorship. But I mean, that's how it goes, right? Like we need both sides of it based on where you're at in your career path, and also other fields based on both sides. Like, oh, sorry, Phil, you take over.
No, but the cool thing about that is it doesn't stop at assistant professor. It goes on to associate and full. And then when you start mentoring, it goes Benjamin Button, you know, and it goes the other way. Yeah.
I add to
Jasmine, did you?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm Jasmine Jones. I'm a professor at Berea College in Kentucky in the US. To answer this question about mentorships at different levels, it's difficult to find opportunities for undergraduate students who may be interested in HCI. And so that's kind of an area of growth or need for SIGCHI. And I think in the past, it's kind of been brushed aside because mostly people are going to graduate school to learn about HCI and UX and things, but it's increasingly growing at the undergraduate level, but there's not really much professional or pre-professional outreach to these students. So I think there's a lot of structures that could be used, like the student chapters or even the student research competition, student design competition. But right now, those are all kind of targeted and pitched towards graduate students. And so if we can think about ways to include undergraduates now in that sort of outreach and mentorship process, I think that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, we don't talk about undergraduates as much as I think we should be. Ali, you have a comment that you'd like to make? And then I will have to wrap us up here soon.
Yeah, I just want to expand on the comments made about assistant professors and moving up. So I don't know about the other countries, but the UK Research Council is actually classing the first 8 years after PhD as early career and then you're going on like established pathways and things like that. And then when you're going up, you also have a lot of like managerial kind of roles in the institution that you get mentorship for. For example, from a dean of another school actually mentoring like a director of another. So there are a lot of like different levels of and layers of mentorship. And it's good to have like a good, clear approach to what suits which category of actually researchers and how they can access the proper mentorship, because it become like quite compulsory at the higher levels of senior management. So you have to, from the HR perspective, to have a mentor. So it's not like an option or a choice. But it's good to know that what works best, and perhaps there are some sort of like a demographic definitions or terminologies of mentorship which can be actually extended to other countries or other continents to understand actually how mentorship works in the other countries. So that's a good thing for exchanging knowledge on.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you. I know we're about 2 minutes past time here. I would like to encourage those of you that would like to stay and chat a little bit longer to do so. If you have to go.
Kale,
sorry, yeah?
We have the full hour.
Oh, we have the full hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Never mind then. Let's keep going. Awesome. Yeah, I see that Susan has added in the chat here. Mentorship doesn't have to be a long-term thing in every case, but can be focused on specific questions or transitions. Absolutely. I think a lot of these comments have brought to mind some local wisdom when it comes to mentorship, and it's this idea that it takes so long to get to know all the systems at play in any given thing. That's most of what the maturation process is. And so the role of elders in a community is to basically listen to the younger members in terms of setting the dreams. It's the youth that set where we're supposed to go. It's the elders that are able to work their knowledge of those systems to make those dreams possible. And it goes back and forth like that because, obviously we can get out of touch when we're so ingrained in those systems. And so far down in knowing those systems, we can get a little rigid if we're not flexible and co-mentoring. So there has been another comment by Bill saying that makes me think it can be done asynchronously too. Asynchronous scales, I'm thinking CRM. For those like myself that don't know, CRM as an acronym is Neha.
Oh, I wasn't gonna offer that expansion.
It's the most important thing you can offer right now.
It's
customer relationship management.
Yeah, so if you call into a call center at a bank or an airline or whatever, they kind of keep track of the questions you've asked and the answers that somebody's given. So it doesn't even have to be the same mentor all the time. The question could come in and just like, I guess it would be like, what would it be like? It would be like at a journal. So my experience at ITIT Journal as an associate editor was things would come in and whoever wanted to take it would take it. So these requests come in asynchronously, and it allows any number of people to field any number of requests that they wanted to. And with a customer relationship management tool, then the history is maintained and you could go back. So like I said, it could cause some privacy issues, but then that could be dealt with by, putting you're using this at your own risk, that, that you scroll through and you just tick at the bottom.
Consent would be, yeah.
But it's a way of dealing with a large volume of requests that kind of spreads the load, and then and it allows everybody to play both roles as mentee and mentor.
That's a great point. I like this idea a lot. Neha, you had something that wasn't defining an acronym to say.
Right. I was going to say the question of, the second last kind of category of things. So how might the EC address these needs? And I'm wondering if there are like specific examples that people might want to propose of things that that we could initiate. They could be across stages, they could be across conferences, they could be more generic, they could be short or long term. But if there was like one thing that you would want to see sort of immediately, what would that be?
I like how you've put that, Neha. Like, we have a lot of experiences in our growing pains getting to the point that we're at, but what would you benefit from right now in terms of mentorship within a SIGCHI context?
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please, Justin.
So one thing I've noticed is that there's these ACM summer schools that kind of pop up, and they seem, they kind of vary on topics. Some are mentor related, some are more topical, but it would be great if SIGCHI could advertise these in some central location, and also how to organize one, because that is kind of a more local, regional way to reach out to the people who need something. It would allow local communities to start to self-organize in this way. And another thing I think that would be very useful is, I think a few people have mentioned like their early career symposium that happened a couple of years ago, and I was part of that, and we kept that community going on Slack. But just giving some more support or like space for people to meet up at different conferences so that we can see each other in person rather than just usernames. That would be something that could be more immediate and useful.
Yeah, I think that's really spot on. Do you mean yeah, am I hearing correctly that more space creation at conferences and sort of adjacent to conferences would be helpful that way?
Yeah, and not something that you have to apply for formally, like through a birds of a feather. You could just say like, hey, we've got this special interest group, we've got it running, here's our history, can we have a room,
Yeah, even using like social media as just a megaphone for this group has agreed to meet up at this time, at this place. Yeah, amplifying those messages. Yeah. I'll go to chat really quickly and then turn things over to Marisol and then Michael. So some great chat about the importance of aunties. And that was followed up with Michael Mueller stating, I think there are different needs leading to different configurations of mentoring. Some needs may be short-term, others may be longer term with additional requirements for the slow development of mutual knowledge and trust. Anka brought up, I was thinking the same. I need to establish trust to share sensitive issues and sort of keeping an eye on the slow growth and development of trust within that. Susan added, often I've found that short-term spot mentoring has grown into longer-term mentoring relationships. Bill added, when they work, they keep working. It's a two-way street. Neha reminded us that we can apply to SIGCHI development funds anytime, and that would be for summer school. And Susan added, building a culture where there's an expectation that mentoring is in all directions, up and down, is important. So Marisol.
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know, like this is not a perfect idea, but I think one of the reasons that the doctoral consortiums, colloquiums, that the reasons they work is the face-to-face. I mean, even now with like Zoom, still like face-to-face, right? Like they have the one-on-one, you get to talk more qualitatively about your needs and work, right? And one thing that I think might be super important right now is to maybe for SIGCHI to host sessions with potential mentors. And it could be like, okay, you open up for anonymous requests for conversations, right? And so for instance, I go in and then I say like, I want to know more about how to choose or how to select PhD students, but I don't need to say my name, right? So I do it anonymously, and then SIGCHI curates and then reaches out to potential people, right? And then you organize a meeting, and then whoever wants to attend to get that one-on-one type of conversation with the potential mentors that you attend. But it's like spaces, those super cozy, trusting spaces that we kind of need to make. I think the mentorship, the short-term, quick mentorship is definitely important. But even then, even if it's short-term, like just like phrasing your concern and then the follow-up, immediate follow-up, it's hard to do with like a quick, how do I apply for funding? Right? It's I need more. So maybe that can provide the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Michael?
Sorry. I wanted to do a yes and. It began with Jasmine, but it also actually includes Marisol as well. Look what we're doing now. We're in different places. We're talking passionately about things that we all care about. I agree with Jasmine. It would be great to have more opportunities to interact face-to-face in sort of informal terms. I think also, and SIGCHI is really the right group to do this, make more spaces for people to be able to do that online, especially people who can't get to typically North America or Europe or East Asia or wherever we're holding the big conference, which is expensive to get to and expensive to be at. We're getting good at this online stuff. I think if I were to ask people to say that they're part of groups that meet online informally in order for mutual support, I think all the hands would go up. Certainly mine would. So maybe SIGCHI can help us to organize that kind of thing. Maybe sometimes it's topical. Maybe sometimes it's a workshops program that isn't connected to a conference, but is just connected to SIGCHI. Maybe it's less formal than that. Maybe it's those two things and a bunch of other things that I don't have the imagination to think of now. But I think we need both the face-to-face and I'm repeating myself, both the face-to-face and the face-to-face through Zoom or online or something else in order to take care of all of us who are in less privileged bubbles than frankly I am.
Yeah, as Bill Tucker actually just threw in the chat, like blended. I think therein lies the scope where we have, more online spaces for all of this, while keeping in mind that maybe some of those who are in most need of mentorship are the ones that aren't able to show up to those spaces, that aren't present enough to even know what opportunities are available, that are disenchanted or disheartened from engaging, and keeping in mind that whatever solutions or systems we put in place for mentorship needs to be able to address both of those sides and everything in between. Yeah, Anka has added in the chat. Not sure if this has been said, but for people from universities outside North America, it may be helpful to have a mentor from US or Canada. People from smaller universities would benefit from mentors from larger universities. I think vice versa as well, myself. I think this would help them understand quicker how SIGCHI works and establish a network more easily. So we are getting close to time. Are there any final pressing thoughts that you just need to have out there that we need to be aware of? Any other experiences? Anything that's missing? Rajal? And then Amira?
Just wanted to highlight, we were talking about the academic exploitation. With that also, from the South Asian perspective, when as a mentee, we ask mentor to mentor us, it also adds on the pressure onto us. So how can we get off that culturally, that pressure? And we had that discussion that there need not be just one mentor, then we are going to have multiple mentors. So that adds on to the pressure onto the early career researchers, how to fulfill the expectation of should there be an expectation from the mentor to the mentee. So how to work around with the expectation is what we should also think about.
Absolutely. Many hands make light work. And yeah, I know we need to spread that labor out. Namira.
I wanted to thank Marisol also for bringing this story. So it's maybe we can or we need to have this women empowering each other. So I like to hear from her story. I'm also myself outside and studying. So such an EQ aspects of mentorship is very important. It's very, I think it keeps the one going. So that's also something that, yeah, we might highlight then. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you all actually for showing up. This was a very lively discussion and we worried maybe, you know, only 5 people might show up. So thank you all for coming. And is there anything that you might like to say, Neha, to sort of wrap things up and close us out?
Not really. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll be continuing this conversation. And I think the larger question we're trying to address here is how we create a culture around mentoring so that everyone who is a mentee can also be a mentor, and thinking about what sort of mentoring looks like when there's many people mentoring each other, not just these sort of you know, mentor-mentee co-mentoring models that Michael has been talking about. So yes, we will be writing up a summary of the conversations from this week. And there are at least some things that we will be putting in place in the immediate future. And then all of these are great ideas for us to also be thinking about simultaneously. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you all so much.